Hello lovely viewers, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful News official YouTube channel. On the CBS serial opera Bold and the Beautiful, Grace Buckingham deceives Bill Spencer by performing Liam Spencer's operation, adding a twist. Yes, she received assistance from another medical practitioner. She misled Bill nevertheless about this dangerous experimental process. Bill Spencer was determined to figure out how to rescue Liam Spencer after watching Bold and the Beautiful earlier this week. On the other side, this secret operation included Grace Buckingham and $1 million from Bill. Grace seems to be accomplishing more than she first thought. She also gave off the impression of being anxious to obtain the other doctor the $1 million. However, in this enigmatic change of events, it now seems to be her fee. Brave and lovely. It hurts Bill Spencer. This week on The Bold and the Beautiful, Bill Spencer, also known as Don Diamont, is heavily culpable by his friends and family for the shootings of Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, and Luna Natsuwa. Liam is recovering well from the bullet wound he sustained. However, Liam is now dealing with a separate medical issue that was previously determined to be deadly. When Hope Logan, played by Anuka Noel, lashes out at the publishing tycoon, Bill finds out about Liam Spencer's fatal tumor diagnosis. Bill is often accused of being a horrible father by Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInneswood, and Hope Logan Anuka Noel. Ever since Liam was admitted to the hospital, Grace Buckingham has been closely monitoring him. Even Finn Tanner Novelin once observed that she seemed to be particularly interested in Liam's situation. However, why? Grace subtly informs Bill that there could be a chance to rescue his kid once Liam Spencer awakens from his coma. Then, in the promo for Bold and Beautiful, we see Grace staring at the screen of her mobile phone, which shows the $1 million. Grace informs Bill this week on Bold and the Beautiful that the hospital is not allowed to perform or even discuss this particular experimental operation. She assures Liam and Bill, however, that she has complete trust in her colleague's ability to succeed and offer Liam a second opportunity at life. Bill sneezes when he hears that it will cost around $1 million. Money doesn't matter to him. His goal is to rescue Liam. Fans, however, are taken aback as the procedure begins and Grace cuts Liam's head with a knife. A maelstrom of deceit raged in the secret hallways of a private clinic in the center of Los Angeles, behind the lavish curtains of riches, power, and family dynasties. And in the middle of it all was a lady named Dr. Grace Buckingham, whose refined facade and kind manner belied the twisted ambition of someone much more deadly. As Bill Spencer, the vicious businessman who had defeated hostile takeovers and corporate warfare, found himself at the hands of someone he hardly knew but fervently trusted, the Bold and the Beautiful took a bold turn. The reality of Liam Spencer's alleged miraculous operation started to come to light as he lay still and mute, hooked up to equipment that hummed indifferently on a daily basis. And Grace was at the heart of it all. It all started when Liam was diagnosed with a rare, aggressive tumor that was believed to be incurable. Los Angeles doctors wouldn't touch it. The dangers were enormous. Any effort to remove it might cause death or irreversible brain damage. Bill spent days destroying every relationship, every name, and every clinic that even hinted at other options. There was little hope until a dubious referral propelled him to prominence. She informed him that the treatment was experimental, unapproved by the FDA, and there was only one chance. She said she knew someone in another country who had done it on the black market with encouraging results. Seeing the glimmer of life in her eyes, Bill, a man who had built empires on risk, made an instinctive choice. Whatever it takes, I'll pay. Please rescue my son. And then the wheels began turning. Grace had never explicitly said that she would be doing the procedure. She had mentioned a novel procedure, mentioned a European colleague, and said that an expert was sneaking in. She maintained a calm demeanor and a soft smile. She demanded that the whole $1 million be paid right away in order to pay for the special equipment, transportation, the surgeon's time, and maybe insurance coverage. The figure had caused Bill to raise an eyebrow, but any hesitancy was squashed by Liam's falling vitals. That evening, he placed the transfer order. He was unaware that Grace had carried out the procedure on her own. Actually, there was never a Swiss doctor. She had mentioned an actual expert by that name, but he had passed away 2 years before. Grace had read his work and had even written to him once in a forum for a medical publication. His undisclosed experimental method had become her obsession. It was unconventional, very dangerous, and had only been tried on animals in a Berlin laboratory. But Grace thought she could do it again. She thought she could influence the result. Certainly for her own sake, if not for Liam's. No one else was eligible for the $1 million in compensation. She was the intended recipient. She owed money for gaming. She was drowning in them when her ex-husband, Reese Buckingham, vanished to avoid his own frauds. The walls were drawing near. Another state was reviewing her license. Her career in medicine was in jeopardy. It was this. She made the decision that altered everything, and it was either her salvation or her destruction. The actual procedure had been a hectic, tumultuous fog. She had one young intern working for her, Danielle, a student nurse, who was frightened but constrained by a large hush money and non-disclosure. In order to seem credible in the event that Bill questioned her, Grace had bought her attendance at the operation. 7 hours passed throughout the procedure, which was twice as long as she had anticipated. Liam flatlined once, forcing Grace to use paddles on her own. Her hands were shaking. Despite her lack of confidence, she managed to drag him away. She seemed to, at least. She wore the exhausted victory of a life-saving physician as she came out of the operation room. She informed Bill that while the procedure had gone well, there had been some unanticipated issues afterwards. She presented herself as the messenger rather than the surgeon. The body of your kid battled valiantly. Bill's face had fallen apart with a mixture of destruction and brittle optimism, and she replied, "He's stable now, but in a coma." He never considered questioning why she, rather than the European surgeon, was providing the information. He never requested evidence. He only took her hands in his, said, "Thank you," and fell back in a chair, mentally writing checks that his heart was unable to pay. Nobody understood that the whole process had been a complex risk. Liam was not healed by Grace. At best, she bought him time. In the process of partly removing the tumor, she had a small stroke. It was as much chance as medicine that he had lived at all. He was not rescued by Grace. He and she had gambled. However, fissures were now beginning to appear. It was Wyatt Spencer who became suspicious. A financial whiz in his own way, he had discreetly asked for a background investigation on the surgical payment Bill made. He linked the wire payment to an offshore account that, oddly, had been opened in Grace's name under a shell business only 2 days before to the operation. It wasn't a warning sign. It was a blatant warning sign. Wyatt presented it to Bill, but the older Spencer was unconvinced and firmly said that she had saved his life. She's the reason he's still alive. However, the skepticism steadily and quietly infiltrated. Hope started to see contradictions in Grace's justifications at the same moment. According to Grace, Liam required specialized neurological inhibitors. Nevertheless, she was unable to identify the drugs when asked. When questioned about follow-up experts, she sidestepped the question. She dismissed inquiries with evasive allusions to global conventions. Grace seemed to be concealing something more and more as she attempted to explain. The nurse then lost it. Danielle arrived in tears in Wyatt's office. "I am no longer able to do this." It wasn't genuine, she claimed. She handled everything herself. No European physician was present. No team was present. I was alone with her. It wasn't until it was too late that I realized what I was getting into. However, I cannot bear the thought of Liam's death. Wyatt was given a thumb drive by her. CCTV video taken inside the prep area shows Grace getting dressed in scrubs by herself. No second surgeon in sight. She was alone, and the patient was half sleeping. When Wyatt presented it to Bill, it was undeniable this time. Bill sat silently watching the video. His chest boiled with rage. She told a falsehood. The realization sent shivers down his spine. She played me. She risked my son's life for money. Grace hadn't saved the day. She had been dishonest. Liam remains in a coma. Nothing has changed. Grace had started getting ready for a discreet departure when Bill barged into the clinic. She had already packed her luggage, made a flight reservation under a false identity, and taken out half of the money. However, she hadn't anticipated Bill arriving with Wyatt and 2 private security officers. "Are you going somewhere?" Bill's voice was cold and threatening as he questioned. Grace's face became spectral. Wyatt snapped, "Don't bother. Everything is known to us. The offshore transactions, the ghost surgeon, and the phony account." Bill moved in closer. "You promised to rescue my kid while looking me in the eye. You lied and stole $1 million. He could have been slain by you." Grace faltered in her voice. "I said the truth when I said I wanted to rescue him. He was saved by me. He's still alive." "Is he?" Bill snarled. "Because all I see now is a lady who risked his life and took a briefcase full of money with her." Grace broke. "I needed the cash. I had no other option." Bill's voice became unintelligible. "There's always an option. Yours was yours. You will now be held accountable for it." The police were not called by Bill. Not quite yet. He desired for Liam to awaken first. He wanted answers, but he also wanted justice. Had Grace only postponed the inevitable, or had Liam been saved? To evaluate his condition, a fresh group of qualified neurologists was called in. They performed new tests and scans and returned with conflicting findings. Although the tumor had virtually disappeared, some pieces remained. Even worse, doctors found that the botched surgery had left damage on the brain. Time had been purchased by the experimental therapy, but Liam's future was now in jeopardy. Days later, with his hand shaking, Bill stood at his son's bedside and said, "I'm sorry, son." Then, miraculously, Liam blinked. Just once, but it was enough, the doctors confirmed. Liam was regaining minimal consciousness. His neural responses were erratic but present. He wasn't out of the woods, but he was fighting. "I thought I was helping. I thought I was saving you, but I was just another pawn." In a matter of seconds, Hope and Steffi were at his side. Wyatt in tears, even the stern and tough Bill in tears, and Grace, whose medical license was immediately revoked and put under house arrest while she was investigated for fraud, medical negligence, and reckless endangerment. As the dust settled from Grace Buckingham's deceit, she was silenced, surrounded by lawyers, but in her own mind, she thought she had done something brave, revolutionary. She had pushed the boundaries of modern medicine, and not only saved Liam, but what if no other doctor had tried? What if the cure was real but the cost was too high? Bill Spencer didn't think so either, but as Liam slowly opened his eyes for the first time and whispered a single crooked word, "Dad." Not fully, because he still had his son. He'd been deceived. Yes, definitely betrayed, but somewhere in all the lies and all the darkness was a flicker of light. And that was all Liam needed. That was all any of them needed to believe that maybe, just maybe, this nightmare would end in redemption rather than tragedy. After clinging to life in silence, Liam Spencer starts to exhibit signs of lucidity, such as his eyelids opening more consistently, his fingers twitching against Hope's palm, and his breath becoming more powerful and steady. Bold and the Beautiful then plunges into a conflagration of aftermath, confrontation, and unexpected redemption. When he finally says his first full sentence, "Where's Dad?" an emotional tsunami strikes the Spencer family like a goods train. Bill is called right after, and as soon as he walks into that hospital room, the dam breaks. Liam's eyes meet his father's weak but curious ones, and he says hoarsely, "You stayed." Bill holds back his emotions and takes Liam's hand, saying, "Always, son. I never left." However, a dismal reality marred their reunion. The media is circling like sharks. Grace is stuck in a golden cage. Bill's legal team has frozen her assets, and Bill still hasn't told Liam that the woman who operated on him wasn't who she said she was, and that the alleged life-saving surgery was actually a reckless gamble that almost killed him. Grace claims she acted in desperation to save Liam, but her claims are dismissed until an unexpected ally shows up. Now a disciplinary board wants to reopen old investigations from her past, including ones that date back to unethical clinical trials, prescription fraud, and even her mysterious resignation from a Florida hospital years ago. Grace Buckingham. That's correct. After hearing rumors of Grace's scandal, the disgraced and elusive Ree sneaks back to Los Angeles the following week and follows her to a private holding suite set up by her attorney. Their reunion is anything but cordial. "You always said I was the con," Grace hisses at him. Even Ree is astonished when Grace breaks down and reveals that the true reason she wanted that $1 million wasn't simply debt or greed, but rather to pay off a former patient's family, threatening to go public with a wrongful death lawsuit. "Look who's wearing the crown now," Reyes responds coolly. Though Hope and Steffi are obviously navigating their own emotional wreckage while hovering over Liam like guardian angels, they find themselves in an awkward alignment when Ree, ever the opportunist and calculating, offers a deal. If Grace agrees to give him half the money in her silence about his return, he will testify that the surgery saved Liam's life. Though Steffi, quietly shaken by how close she came to losing Liam, starts to reevaluate her own choices, the moments she spends watching him sleep, her fingers brushing through his hair, rekindle feelings she's tried to bury. Hope sees Liam's survival as a second chance for her, for their family, for the life they were never able to fully live. The tension is rekindled when Hope witnesses her doing this. In a breathtaking moment, the two women argue, this time not about marriage or treachery, but about what Liam would wake up to. Hope lashes out, "He's the father of my daughter too." Steffi responds, "He's not surprised to be passed back and forth." When Wyatt enters the room, their dispute comes to a halt. He asks, Maybe we should wait till he's completely cognizant before ripping each other apart again. The greater bombshell, however, comes midweek when Rich and Finn present Bill with startling medical results. The new expert managing Liam's recuperation has found evidence of unauthorized surgical procedures, and incision techniques don't resemble anything carried out in accredited U.S. facilities. Finn is enraged and demands to know who performed this surgery. Bill tries to back off, but eventually gives in. Grace Buckingham. She did it. She lied. The hospital is rocked by the revelation. Finn storms into the administrator's office and demands a thorough investigation. Ridge, in the meantime, confronts Steffi. You were there. Back at Forrester Creations, rumors spread quickly. Brooke, overhearing bits of the story, demands to know why Bill trusted Grace. Steffi responds, because I was desperate to save him. Just like you were when you paid doctors to keep Eric alive against his wishes. When they later meet in private, she tells him, you should have come to us. We would have found another way. Bill, who's always the lonesome one, brushes her off, but there's a flicker of the past, of mistakes they have made together, of losses they both bear. Brooke, with glassy eyes, says softly, I hope Liam forgives you. But forgiveness won't come easily. As Liam finally gains the strength to stand, Bill breaks the news to him. Son, the doctor who did your surgery wasn't who I said she was. She wasn't licensed or certified. It was Grace, and she lied to us both. Liam looks at him in shock. You let her operate on me. Bill nods ashamedly. I was desperate too. I trusted you, Liam murmurs. I needed you. As another twist takes place, Thomas Forrester comes to Los Angeles after finding out about Liam's illness. Liam looks away, attempting to digest the treachery. You bet against my life. The pain is palpable. The silence between them is heavier than words. Thomas's presence complicates things, especially when he offers Hope support, bringing her food and sitting with her quietly, telling her that she doesn't have to do this alone. Hope is surprised to see him, but Douglas asked him to come. I just wanted Uncle Liam to have all the people he loves around, Douglas says. As Hope's legal troubles worsen by Friday, she is called to a closed-door session where the medical board questions her under oath. I was scared. I was broke. Hope is moved, but it is at odds. She still loves Liam, but what future awaits a man whose mind could never completely recover? I thought I could save him, so I did. But the board doesn't care about her excuses. Reese unexpectedly defends herself when she's called to testify via video. She saved that boy. If she hadn't, you'd be holding a funeral right now. The final decision is still pending, and Bill, who has the option of filing criminal charges, must choose between destroying her life and accepting that her illegal act might have saved Liam's.